first of all, I just want to apologise. I know we were supposed to start at 4 o'clock, but we've had a lot of technical issues. So we finally had to change the time and everything on Eventbrite, and I hope everyone got the email. And we sent out the link on the updated time on Telegram and WhatsApp as well. So today we've got both pharmacists and optometrists, locum on both sides. So we'll hopefully cover both areas, but essentially, once you're a locum, it's pretty much the same for everyone. So first of all, I just want to introduce Imran Butt. So he's the owner of Centra Consultants. The company's been with us for about 3 years now, since 2018, when we started as well. And they've got hundreds of clients on the Pharmacy Cooperative network, and we have one of the highest ratings of any accountancy firms on our network as well. So today, we just want to go through, first of all, whether you should be working as a limited company, a sole trader, as a newly qualified pharmacist. What are the areas that you need to be focusing on, and how do you start sorting out your accountancy side and paperwork and what you need to do and all of those kind of stuff. We've got so many questions over the last few weeks, and it's usually been pretty much the same question. So we figured if we have a separate event, just to go through the basics first of what you should be doing as a newly qualified pharmacist or an optom, and how you need to sort out your paperwork, your account and your company formation, your bank account, the VAT stuff, and obviously now with IR35, we've got certain companies that will only pay into your personal account, and how would that impact you if you're a limited company, and how would that impact you? So I'm just going to hand it over to Imran now. Imran, if you want to first introduce yourself and also just start off with the basics.
Okay, so I'm Imran from Centra Consultants. We've got 3 full-time accountants that work with us to do the locum tax returns. So this is like a webinar for the newly qualified. So I hear that people are receiving their GPHC memberships this week, last week. So basically, the first question is always going to be: do I go down the sole trader route, or do I form a limited company? And the easiest way to answer it will be depending on how you're going to work. If it's going to be locum, will be your full-time work, so at least 4 days a week minimum, then 100% you should form a limited company. Or if your situation is where you're working for another pharmacy at the moment, so you can't do locum work full-time and you're only going to be doing locum 1, possibly 2 days a week, then sole trader may be the option, the route to go down. It depends if you're on a payroll with somebody else. So if you did, let's say, a locum doing it full-time at least 4 days a week, they should turn over at least £40,000 in a year. That's only working for about just over a third of the year, and they'd be able to achieve that. So at the moment, when they've not started to work, they might think that's a lot of money, but it really accumulates quite quickly though. We've had 2 sign-ups last week, locums, and they both in their first year one did 52,000, one did 55,000, but they didn't form a company or register as sole traders. So, they've come at the end of the year, once earning all of that money, now trying to figure out a way to reduce their tax, which you couldn't do it retrospectively. So it's always best to decide right at the start, before any shifts, which route you're going to go. We say if it's going to be full-time work where you're only going to do locum work, definitely form the limited company from day one so that you can claim all relevant expenses from your very first shift up to the last shift of the year and help to reduce your taxes as much as legally possible. So, and for example, even if we go for a low figure of £30,000, so you turn over £30,000 between now and next year, if you do it just as a sole trader and you're declaring it to the self-assessment, your tax bill on that would be close to £7,000. If you do the same £30,000 through your limited company, your tax bill will be somewhere, because of the expenses involved, we can't give an exact figure, but it will be between £3,000 and £4,000. Whereas with the sole trader, we already know, because there's not many expenses, we know the tax bill is going to be close to 7. So even at £30,000, you're going to save £3,000 to £4,000 in tax. And then it just increases as the income goes up. So typically, locums are on about average 47,000. But even if we said £40,000 through a sole trader, their tax return is going to be very similar to what it would be if you were employed, because the tax rate's the same. So you're paying just over £10,000, £11,000 in tax. You do £40,000 through your limited company, you're looking to pay £4,000 to £5,000 in tax. So tax savings increase the more you earn as a locum. So if you're looking to do it full time, I recommend forming the limited company before you do your first shift. Then opening up, once the limited company is formed, opening up the business bank account, providing those to the pharmacies and agencies, and then getting paid into your business account right from the very first shift. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I was on mute. So I think that covers essentially the basics of where to start off as a company, as a locum. So I think the still stuck between limited and trade. So what's the lowest amount where you would still be worth having a limited company instead of a sole trader?
So that's like a difficult question, because for any other trade, like say if you had an eBay business, Amazon business, and you're self-employed, you Google it and the information will be out there. Form a limited company from £40,000 or £50,000. There's no actual reason why a person would do that, because you're not going to make the tax savings on the first £40,000. The reason why the advice will be given by accountancy firms is because who knows if that business will be successful. It's not good for us to register companies and then at the end of the first year, they've actually not made any money, but they're paying us. Some companies are charging up to £2,000 for limited company tax returns. But who would know if that business will be successful? You could open up a shop, you could do an Amazon, eBay business. There's no way of knowing if you're going to be successful or not. Locums are different. You guys have got next to no turnover overheads. You're getting paid from day one. A lot of the times, even your mileage is covered and you're making money on the mileage as well. So as long as you've got an economical car, you've actually made money on the fuel that they paid you for. So a locum wouldn't really run the risk of being in a loss at the end of the year, even if they did 10 shifts, because they've got next to no overheads. Mm-hmm. So that's why, like, for a locum, it's completely different. If they are going to do it full time, they should just form the limited company from day one, because there is no, or maybe we won't earn this amount. Maybe literally, if the shifts at the moment, 350 is like your average day rate at the moment. So you'd only have to work just over 100 days and you've made £40,000 at the end of the year. It adds up really fast. And obviously the two gentlemen I was speaking to last week, they were both surprised that they'd earned over £50,000. But obviously I was like, you couldn't have been too surprised, because either the money's in your account and you can see it, or you've managed to spend almost £5,000 a month. You must have noticed you've spent that amount. But both of them were adamant they were surprised they'd earned that amount. But yeah, so with locum, but from an accountancy point of view, we say £18,000 is where we can justify our fee, because a sole trader's account, we charge £299 for the year to calculate and submit the tax return. And for the limited company, we charge the corporation plus their payroll plus their self-assessment, we charge £659. So it's an additional £360. At £18,000, we can justify our fee, where we're saving them at least double the amount in which they paid the £360. So for us, £18,000 is the point. Whereas obviously, if another accountancy firm is charging over £1,000, then their point would be higher than ours. Or obviously on the flip side, you might have accountancy firms charging £300 for all the services. Then their figure would be even lower, at which point it makes sense to go limited. For us, it's 18, but not at 18. It's just at 18, it makes sense. Now, it honestly would take 4 months to hit 18,000, but you wouldn't wait until you've reached 18,000, because then you won't be able to make the savings on the first 18,000. You can't claim your mileage or your meal allowance, and you won't have payroll open. as a sole trader, because if you're a sole trader up to 18, you can't employ yourself, so you can't save money through payroll, you can't claim meals, you can't claim mileage. So you're paying a higher rate tax, and that just wouldn't make sense. If you knew for a fact, I'm going to be doing it full time, then you know by the end of the year, you'll be hitting at least 40, 50, if not 60, 70,000 pounds. So, I think if you know you're going to do it full time, form the limited company from day one, then there's nothing stopping you from reaching, aiming to achieve 60 to 70,000 pound turnover in the year. Then the sky's the limit, and work as much as you like, hit those kind of numbers.
So essentially, as soon as you qualified, before you, as soon as you get your results, set yourself up as a limited company, get your business account set up with any bank, pretty much whichever. I think Starling's probably the easiest one to open with at the moment.
Yeah, Starling's the easiest one. With Locums, we found majority of them have signed up with Starling. It's an online bank. I think about 2 days, and they'll send you over your account number and sort code. So you're up and ready to go to start doing your first shift. And you just have to remember, even though it's an online bank, you're only having your business account income going into that account. Everything you require personal would still be transferred into your personal account. So you can still go to your brick and mortar bank account when you need to withdraw any money personally and whatnot. This is just somewhere to just house your local money that comes in. Mm-hmm. After you've paid your taxes, you can transfer all of that money out as dividends at the end of the year into your personal account.
Yeah, and I think I've always been with Santander for my business account. I did it when it was free for life. And I've never actually had to go into the bank for any of my Locum account banking. So I think online just makes sense. Makes it a lot easier.
Which is not free anymore anyway. It's almost like £10 a month now, Santander. Yeah,
it's gone up now. They don't do that anymore. I don't think any bank does free business banking anymore.
Yeah, and you don't get any perks for it anyway, so it doesn't make sense to pay for a business bank account.
Okay.
Because before you could get like breakdown cover or mobile phone cover, but you don't get nothing for your £10, your £12 a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. So I think if we move on to the questions now, is there anything else you want to cover, Imran?
To do with that? No, just the fact that if you do decide to go limited, then it is form the limited account first. Obviously, if they signed up with ourselves, we would form the company for them. It takes 24 to 48 hours. We send them the incorporation certificate, and then at that point, you can apply for your business bank account. You can't form a business bank account before actually registering the company. And
do you set up the company? Does Centra set up the business account with Hmrc, or does the locum have to do that?
Set up which account?
Your company with Hmrc is something that the.
No, we would set that. We don't actually charge for that. So setting up a business with Companies House, there's a £12 fee at the end. We just add that to our fee, but we don't actually charge for that service, and we've not built it into our price either. Because if you sign up with us, we'll form the business company for you, and then we'll add the £12 fee to our fee. We then send it you on 60 days. So you have 60 days to see our service, see if you're happy with it. If you're happy with our service after 60 days, you pay the fee. If you're not happy with it, then you only owe us the £12, which is what we pay to form your company.
And I think some companies do actually charge about around £100 to set up the company as well.
Yeah, 100 to 150.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's simple online form, to be honest. So I think it's a rip-off.
We always prefer to form it ourselves just because of the questions where it says about shares and the amount of shares. People get a bit too creative with that. And it does need to be in line with what it needs to be for a locum to make it, when it comes to declaring your taxes at the end of the year, those figures have to be inputted, and some people like to put like 1 million shares down. A locum business is not a business that could ever be sold in the future, because without you, there is no business. So we do prefer to just do it ourselves, and that's why we don't charge for it. It is free, because say after 60 days you decided don't want to be with you guys, we'll send your file on to whoever else you decide to sign up with, and you only owe us the £12 that we paid to form your company. But we do prefer for us to form it just so it's all set up correctly. There's like SIC codes that you have to input to register what your business does, which can cause you problems if you pick the wrong SIC code, and there's literally 1,000 codes out there. If you register the wrong code against your company, you can have problems opening up the business bank account.
Okay. Right. So I think we've answered the question about still stuck between sole trader versus limited. Do you need to register as self-employed with Hmrc before starting to work? Again, I think that question we kind of covered, because if you're going, as soon as you qualified, you're probably best.
Yeah, you have like 3 months to register. If you're going to go the sole trader route, then you have to register for self-assessment, and you have 3 months from your first shift to register. Otherwise, it can look like deception that you're working and you're receiving untaxed money, but yet you're not declaring it to Hmrc yet or letting them know you're working for yourself. Mm-hmm. So they give you like a 3-month grace period to notify them that you are working for yourself. Again, if you signed up with us, we would do that registration for you, and there's not a fee for that either.
So what's the fee for setting up as a sole trader with Centra?
There isn't one, because that application doesn't have a fee. So registering for self-assessment, there is no fee for that. You just register on the Gov UK website, which we would do for you and we wouldn't charge. Forming a company, there is a £12 fee that company's house charges, which we just pass on to you.
Okay. Should we make our companies VAT registered? And why should we make it VAT registered? Pros and cons?
No, there's no pros. You wouldn't. First of all, to be VAT registered, you have to have a turnover of over 85,000. In all these years that we've been doing locum accounts, nobody's achieved that, and you wouldn't want to either, because once you go over the VAT threshold, you then have to add VAT onto every shift that you do, and pharmacies just won't be impressed with receiving invoices plus VAT.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think I know a lot of companies won't hire locums who are VAT registered.
Yeah.
So I think you would have an issue with that as well.
Yeah, because honestly, it mess with their paperwork, because then they have to declare all of that income and get rebates on it and stuff. So, but it wouldn't just happen in the first place. Getting over 85 is you'd have to work quite a lot to get there. The closest we've had is 83,000 from one locum in 2019. She was the closest, but she was doing long 30-day block shifts back when you were allowed to do them, and at really good rates. So she got quite close at 83. Other than that, it's usually the low 70s are our current high earners.
What would you advise someone? Because I know in the past I've hit close to 90. What would you advise someone who does go over 85, 90,000 a year?
Not to do it. Once you get close. So when she got 83, because they send the sheets to us on a monthly basis, we tracked that and we could see it happening. So she had 3 weeks left to go, and it was just to let her know, don't do any more shifts now. Take the time off. Because once you register. It's difficult to then deregister yourself. You can open yourself up to an investigation. It's not worth it, because you will then, from then on, every single thing, every piece of work you do as a locum, you have to add 20% on, which you don't receive. You're just getting it for the government. So first you'll struggle to get shifts. If you do manage to get shifts on paper at that moment, it'll look great because you've earned your day rate plus 20% on top. You're just holding it for Hmrc, then every 3 months has to be declared and you've got to pay it.
Okay.
There's no expenses for locums, like whereas a business like that's buying and selling, for them it could be different. They could end up with rebates every quarter, depending on, but a locum has got nothing to sell. They just bring in the money in, holding it for Hmrc, handing it back over. Mm-hmm. There's no incentive.
Okay. How do you overcome companies that don't want to pay into business accounts? Now, I know we've had a lot of discussions around this one on Hmrc with the IR35, and we've got I think Lloyd's, Superdrug, and Asda that are paying into the personal accounts and don't want to deal with limited companies because of harsh, I think is it money laundering and strange regulations that they found dug out from nowhere.
Yeah, so the way the locums are getting around it at the moment is they've just not ticked the box. So there's a box that turns up on Venlog and it just says check this box to say that you've paid into your personal. They're just avoiding to pay at the moment, and nothing's really happening. You're still able to bypass that point, and locums that are with us are still getting paid into their business account. They were talking about enforcing it, like there was something was going to happen by the end of April if you've not checked that box. But it does seem like there's an empty threat because nothing seemed to have happened. We're into May now, and people are just still avoiding to check that box and still getting paid into their business account. The argument that they've come out with to say we can't pay you into your business account, because we can only pay into an account that has your name on it, is not a great argument, since your business account is in your name. You could form your company ABC Limited. When you're making your application, you still have to give your name when you make your application online. This is not going to be some secret bank account that nobody knows who the owner of it is. So if Lloyds or Asda wants payments, you can give your first name, last name with your account number and sort code, and the money will still go into the account. You don't have to say ABC Limited. Santander, Starling, Halifax, they still know who the owner of the account is. They'll match up with the name of the account or the company name of the account. Either one, it would go into the account. So obviously that argument doesn't make any sense. And by saying we can only pay into a personal account, that's suggesting that when the NHS pays Asda or Lloyds for the scripts that they do, they must be paying the CEO of Lloyds into his personal account. And it clearly isn't the case. He clearly gets paid into his business account. So, it's
I don't think the arguments kind of stand up.
No.
It was obviously purely to avoid the IR35 and to...
which they're adamant they're not doing it for IR35. They're adamant it's nothing to do with, don't bring up IR35. There's nothing to do with that. Yeah, we just brought this up 2 weeks before IR35 kicks in.
Yeah, just randomly, it just came into effect. But the thing is, no other company, no other pharmacy multiples are using, or mostly I think the Optums are the same as well. A lot of the Optums are the same, where they're not being paid into the personal account. It's going straight into locum accounts. And correct me if I'm wrong, I know that we've got a few Optums here. But in the pharmacy world, at least, the arguments that these three have come up with, I don't think they stand up. And my understanding is they can still be chased by by Hmrc for not doing the independent assessments. So it just doesn't make sense as to why they've decided to go down that route instead of just making it simple like all the other companies.
Yeah, because if they would have just looked into it and actually just did a general assessment of a locum, so not, just pick any random locum and did an assessment, they would have come out with the same results that Boots and Roland's came out with. Locums don't fall under IR35.
Then
there would have no issue.
We've had meetings with contract lawyers and IR35 tax consultants, and majority of the locums, I would say 99% of the locums don't come under IR35. I don't know, actually it doesn't make any sense for lawyers to have gone down that route.
Hmrc was literally looking for that 1% locum who would only work very close to where they live. So they weren't looking to make relationships with new pharmacies. They just, if the local place wanted, they'd give them a cheap rate, work at the closest branch to them. And if they didn't need them for the day, they wouldn't bother looking for any other shifts. They just want to work where they want to work. That's who Hmrc was after, a very select locum, that doesn't want to. So they're literally using their business bank account to reduce the amount of tax they pay. But if their limited company wasn't there, then they wouldn't actually, they would be a direct employee, since they only work for one pharmacy and one pharmacy alone. They've not made any relationship with any agencies or any other pharmacies. And they're just happy to, even if they got 4 shifts in a month from one pharmacy that's down the road from them, they're happy with that. They make £1,200, £1,300, and they're happy with that. That covers their costs. They were the ones, because they shouldn't be having a limited company then, because without that limited company, you are just an employee. Whereas your traditional locum, you remove the limited company away from them. They still got, like, if you take one, say, for example, Lloyds decided we don't want to work with them anymore. You've still got multiple other pharmacies to work for. You've got independents to work for. You've got Sainsbury's, Cohen's, Roland, Boots, Asda. You've got so many other companies to work for. So your limited company is still valid. It doesn't just close down just because you lost one client. But for the locum, we will only work for one client. Obviously, if they stop working for that client, then the limited company is worthless.
Okay. What about people who work long-term, just say for Lloyds, but in different branches?
No, they would still be considered an employee for them. So they wouldn't be able to do that, which now that IR35's come in, none of these pharmacies are looking to employ somebody too often, though. So even Boots, who says locums are exempt for us, they wouldn't look to solely employ that person all the time. They will have built it into their systems so that when they're giving out shifts, they can track who they've employed and how often to make sure they don't fall inside IR35. You know, because they like IR35 had certain rules. For example, if you worked somewhere on a Friday and finished at 5 o'clock, you can't go back on a Monday because that's what they consider an employee. Somebody who finishes on a Friday and goes back to the same place on a Monday. So I think Lloyd's and one of these systems will have built it in to make sure they don't allow that to happen, that whoever finishes them on Friday, they don't end up giving them a shift on a Monday.
But is that in the same branch or could be any branch?
No, it could be any branch. It's just working for that company.
Okay. What is an umbrella company, and is it better to locum under an umbrella company or limited company? So that's a question from Sana.
Yeah, we don't recommend working under an umbrella company. Like, there's not many that are recognized by Hmrc, and again, it's just another way to avoid tax. So the fees that you end up paying to the umbrella companies, it doesn't overall, it won't work out that great. You're better off just working for the pharmacies that allow you to work through your limited company, and that would be your safest and most easiest route to go, rather than trying to do it through an umbrella corporation.
Okay, hope that one answers your questions. Can you use one limited company for locuming and other business ventures?
No, it should be separated out. If you do a separate business that's got nothing to do with locuming, it should be under a separate limited company.
I think they ask you when you register the company what the activities are of the business, and you have to work within those activities, as far as I know.
Yeah, but you can't. If you wanted to, you could add multiple. You could add 4 or 5 different activities. But the reason why it's not recommended is because it will push you over that 85,000. There's more chance of you getting pushed over the 85 and then being forced to be VAT registered for both companies.
Okay.
Whereas if you're going to sell like something on Amazon, you're better off doing it through a separate company. So if that takes you over 85,000, like we've got one locum who's got a supplement business. So he's got 2 separate companies, one for locum, one for supplement, because he doesn't want his supplement business taking him over the 85,000 threshold and then having to pay VAT on both, on his supplement and on his locum. Whereas his supplement business, it only started last year, but he's got that, his VAT price is already built into his current prices, so that once he does become VAT registered and you have to add 20% onto all of your prices, it's fine. He's already got it built in. So that's fine with that, but you can't really build it into your locum cost. You have to just add it on top of what your hourly rate is. Okay.
When submitting our taxes in January, do we only complete the online HMRC self-assessment form and nothing else to do?
Yeah, if you're going to declare your own, then you would do it online on HMRC's website. And January is the deadline. So it's from the 6th of January of one year to the 5th of January the following year. And obviously using HMRC's software, you'll end up paying a higher rate of tax opposed to if you did it through an accountant software. But if you were to do it yourself, just anytime after the 6th of April, you can go online, register, go through the application, whatever amount it comes to at the end, it'll tell you the total, this how much tax you're due. You pay that by the 31st of January of the following year.
Okay. Going to the question, business accounts, which one's better, Barclays, Lloyds, etc. I think majority of the locums that you've worked with are using Starling, aren't they?
They are.
But I think we're not in a position to, or we can't really recommend one over the other.
No.
You'd probably have to read what they're offering from each company and ask what the locums are going with. I've been with Santander since I've qualified in 2006. I've always been with Santander. It's worked fine for me. But I think for a basic business account, they're pretty much all the same. Who's the cheapest and who's got the most facilities for that price.
Yeah, and you just want it to be free though, because it really isn't something that's worth paying for because you're not getting anything for it. But you can't just use a standard current account because of the amount of transactions coming in and out of a locums account. It wouldn't be long until your account would get frozen. It's not worth the headache of trying to then explain why you've been having business transactions going through your account and trying to explain what you've done there. And that's why, because a lot of people just think, oh, well, if a business account is free with Starling, I could just make a separate current account with my actual bank. But you couldn't really use a current account to run your business through because of the volume of transactions that are going through it.
That actually brings me back to one question I've had from another locum a couple of weeks ago. And it's to do with Lloyd's. So he started working with Lloyd's, and he's been told that obviously he really likes to work for them, and they're going to only pay him into his personal account. Now he spoke to his accountant, and he said it's okay to have your money going into your personal account, and then you can just transfer that to your limited company account, and it will be still part of your business. Now, is this something that's legal, or is it a grey area?
I don't think it would be legal on a tax return to deceive where the money's come from. If somebody is clearly paying you into your business account, so you've not invoiced in your business name, you've invoiced in your personal name, and they've paid you into your personal account, you couldn't then take that money, funnel it into your business, and then all of a sudden make it look like you've received the money into your business account, and then on top of that, try to claim expenses for that shift, which is what this is not what Lloyd's had agreed. So if there was ever an investigation, Lloyd's would say, no, we paid into their personal account and then obviously that's them saying you're a sole trader. And then once you're a sole trader, you can't claim expenses for that shift.
Okay.
So I'm just bringing that up though with us. So if you've got a limited company, let's say you've got a limited company in place, but ASDA are still refusing to pay into a limited company account. You can, if you want to do, obviously at the moment, a lot of people are choosing not to work for ASDA. But if you chose to work for them because they've offered you a good rate, for example, you could just do that shift, get paid into a sole trader account. So it's a separate current account, but a sole trader one. Get paid into that one. All it just means is you couldn't claim the mileage and the meal allowance for that shift. So you just got to realize your taxes for that shift will just be a little bit higher. So they'll be at 20% of the income you've earned for that shift would go towards taxes, opposed to 7.5% or less if it was through your limited company. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't stop.
I suppose if you're working a lot of shifts for Asda and Lloyd's and Superdrug, that would be considerable amount of tax that you'd have to pay.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't recommend for a person to do a lot of their shifts. Like at least keep it below 30% of their shifts to go into a sole trader account, and because otherwise it just won't be worth it. Like the amount of taxes you're going to pay from it. Mm-hmm. I'm not too sure why somebody would want to work for Lloyd's and Asda at the moment when there's so many other pharmacies. Like all the independents you can work for as much as you like, they're not under IR35, so they'll pay you into your business account. Any company that's got less than 50 employees or less than 10.1 million in turnover, you can work for them as much as you like. IR35, they're exempt from IR35. And the other multiples like Roland's and Boots, you can work for them as much as you like. Tesco, you can work for without a problem.
Okay. So next question. So we're going to have to move quite quickly because we've got a lot of questions to go through. If you're a landlord as well as a locum, would the limited company be better, but not working for 4 days a week, or best to talk to Centra? Sorry, the question is really convoluted. So basically, I think he's a landlord and a locum. So he wants to know whether it's better to go with a limited company. But I suppose if you're a landlord, you wouldn't put that into a limited company anyway.
You can form one for a limited company, but it wouldn't be required though. You just declare your income or your losses from your rental on your self-assessment, which you have to do anyway. Even if you form a limited company, you still have a self-assessment to do.
Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't make a difference whether you're a locum or not.
No, but if they're doing 4 days a week and they're not employed by anybody else, they should have a limited company for their locum work. But the rental has got nothing to do with it. That will just get declared on the self-assessment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That should clear that one out. What's the procedure for paying taxes as a locum?
So you basically, we would calculate the taxes to as low as we legally can get them. We would then let you know this is the figure. So the locum fills in an expense sheet, which is just a simple expense sheet at the end of each month, transferring the figures from either their sole trader bank account or their limited company bank account. They just transfer their expenses from there onto a simple Excel expense sheet. The accountant at the end of the year would calculate the tax as low as we legally can, claiming every expense that we're able to. Once we've got it as low as we can, we'll message or email the client and say, your tax bill comes to this amount. Once the figure's agreed, we submit it on the client's behalf, and then Hmrc would send them a bill. And the payment is just an online bank transfer. So your corporation tax return, which is your company tax return, just pay it through your business bank account. There's a 17-digit reference number unique to yourself. That would be your reference, so that it's allocated to the right person, and that's it. And self-assessment's just done through the same way, but through your personal account to the same bank details. Hmrc's only got the one bank detail for self-assessment and corporation.
Right. So he's asking, so as a sole trader, what expenses can you claim, if any?
Just the reason why sole trader end up paying very similar tax to if you were just employed. So obviously, if you were employed by Boots on £40,000, you're paying close to £11,000 to £12,000 in tax if you've got a student loan as well. And the reason why sole trader is very similar rate of tax. One, the rate of tax is 20%, same as what an employee for a pharmacy would be paying. And the second reason is there's not many deductions you can make. So the only ones you legally can make are your GPHC membership and your indemnity insurance. Basically, the expenses that you'd have to pay, and if you didn't pay them, you wouldn't be able to trade. Those you're allowed to claim, but not like your meal allowance. You couldn't say, "Oh, without eating, I couldn't work." If you decided to work for yourself, i.e., sole trader, then it is down to you to figure out what you're going to eat for the day, how you're going to eat, how you're going to cover it. Just same as like an employee. If an employee wants to go on lunch, they can't ask Boots to pay for that meal.
Okay. The next question. Hopefully this answers your questions. If it doesn't, you can always reach out to Imran afterwards and get more clarification on any of these questions that you've asked. Where are you based? Centra is based in Manchester, but I think this is a question I get quite a lot about people asking for accountants that are near them. Most of the work is done online, and you can send all your stuff over, like any documents that you need, you can send it over through post. You don't actually ever have to go to your accountants. In the last 15 years, I've been in Locum, 16 years, I've only been to my accountant, I think, twice, and that was for a different reason. It wasn't to do with my Locum work. So your accountant can be anywhere. They don't need to be local to you or near you. What I would look for is who gives the best service, what the price for that price, and what the feedback from other clients that they have, etc., and just make a decision based on that. And as a sole trader, do I need to register with Hmrc before booking a shift?
No, you've got 3 months to do it.
Okay, we've done that one. From Esther, we've got, is it advisable to set up a limited company in my name or choose a different name? This is because I heard some companies do not like to pay into limited companies.
They would still know, like if you put it into your name, it's still going to have the word limited at the end of it. And when you provide the business bank details, they would know from the sort code it's a business bank. So I understand what the person's saying, but it really won't make a difference because you're still invoicing in a limited company name, even if you called it your name with the word limited at the end. You couldn't hide the fact that it's a limited company.
Yeah, and for Esther, I think the companies you're referring to are basically Lloyd's, Superdrug, and what's the other company? Asda. Probably best avoiding them, to be honest, at the moment. Pretty much every,
I think that's what most people are doing at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much every locum I've come across are basically avoiding.
Lloyd's are struggling to get locums at the moment, so I think they're kind of realizing what's happened.
Yeah, I've seen loads of emails. I mean, constantly I get 20, 30 emails a day with shifts all over the country. So we can see they're struggling, and the simple solution would be treat locums better, give them a better rate, and stop the silliness with the IR35 and just deal with like every other company does.
Yeah.
But hopefully that will change soon. Guys, if there's any optoms here, if you have anything specific to optometry, please do feel free to ask as well, because I know all the questions we're getting are from pharmacists. Right. If studied for an IP qualification, how long can the fees be claimed for backdated? So basically, So basically, if you're doing any kind of CPD courses or IP courses or any other kind of courses for pharmacy, can you claim them from your expenses, and B, how far back can you claim them from?
Just in your current tax year, whatever your expenses for that year were.
Okay. So, I mean, could you claim pretty much anything, any courses that you do in pharmacy?
As long as it's solely related to locum pharmacy. So it could, for example, we've got a locum at the moment who's doing, in September, will be starting a medical course to become a doctor. Can't claim the expense of that because once he's becomes a doctor, he no longer would be a locum pharmacist. So it's taking him away. So you couldn't take the money from one business to fund a course that's going to take you away from that business. There's no incentive for that business to do that.
Okay.
So you couldn't reduce your tax for the next 5 years and then go off and do a different company. Well, not be a company, you'll just be employed by the NHS after that.
Okay. So I think so
things like MUR training, flu jab training, the prescriber course, all of that is covered though. That's tax deductible.
Okay. Everything can only be from within this current tax year.
Yeah, whichever year you do the course within, you have to claim.
Cool. How do we sign up with you? I'll leave the details on the. So I think if you. I'll post a contact number for Imran. You can contact him directly on his email address on the chat, so you can email him as well. Do you have a website that we can share on the chat as well?
Yeah, I'll send you the.
Yeah, so if you put all of that onto the chat, then I think you can contact him on that one. Next one, what exact information will I need to provide to you for you to do my tax returns?
Okay, so it's pretty simple. Once the clients have signed up, so the process to signing up is usually a client will call up or it might even be over WhatsApp. Yesterday, we literally had our fastest sign up. I don't know, he must have been in a massive rush. He called up within 1 minute of the phone call. He was like, yeah, I'm happy with everything. And I just said, okay, send me your email address. He sent the email. I sent it over to him, all the information we require. And within 3 minutes, he'd filled that in and sent that back. So that was definitely a record. But yeah, it is simple though. You send us your email address on text, WhatsApp, email, and we'll email you over the information we require. Once you respond back to that, if it's the limited company route, we'll form the limited company either the same day or the next day for you. And then we just take it from there. In terms of the information that we require, once that's done once you form your business bank account, and all of your income is now coming into the business bank account, we require you to, at the end of each month, to just spend 10 minutes transferring the figures from your business bank account onto your expense sheet. It shouldn't really take more than 10 minutes just to transfer them figures over and email them in. So we always, month to month, have a copy of it just in case you guys lose it or something happens to your computer or anything. We've always got an up-to-date record of your income. Plus, we can track, how things are going. Or if you if you're approaching any type of thresholds, the accountant would let me know to notify you. But it is pretty simple. One thing I'll just say is when you're doing the expense sheets, literally always having to explain this, when you're doing the expense sheet, you would do it so the month of May, 31 days, at the end of the month, you'd fill it in on the assumption that you'll get paid for every shift you did in May, rather than filling it in based on what's coming to your bank account, because then it gets quite confusing after a while because you did a shift in April and the money came in June, or it might come in May. It gets quite confusing. But if you draw a line at the end of each month and you're putting on there just the figures that you'd invoice for that month, so it's what you've invoiced for the month, not what you've received, and that makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we only submit our taxes once a year? So keep all the invoices until January, then we need to submit. Basically, if your tax year is from January to December, you keep them all together and then you submit everything in January. And I think there are some that used to do it quarterly.
Okay, so basically how it would be is, if, for example, we get signed up to now, so we're in the middle of May, the first year is always a slightly longer year because it will run till the end of the month in which you form a limited company. So if we form a limited company tomorrow, the 17th, your first tax year will be the 17th of May of 2021 up until 31st of May, 2022. That's your tax year. From that point, you've got 9 months to get your accounts in order. So we've got 9 months for you to get the sheet over to us, for us to calculate it, get as low as we legally can, and get it submitted for you. Because we do things on a monthly basis and you guys are sending us the sheets every single month, literally by month 12, and as soon as the month ends, May of next year, we're ready to submit on your behalf. And once it's submitted, you still have 9 months to pay. So it's not like you have to pay your tax bill straight away. You still got the 9 months to pay the bill, but we always say it's best to get it calculated as soon as possible, so at least you know what your tax bill is going to be and you could be organized and prepare yourself to pay that bill. So that's the company. So the company tax return year is unique to whenever you form a company. So if you formed a company on the 1st of June, it will run from the 1st of June 2021 until the 30th of June 2022. After that, it will just be 12 months from then. So your next tax year would be the 1st of July until the 30th of June, and it will just be the same every year. That's for the company. The self-assessment, though, is the exact same for every single person in the UK. No matter what your trade is, your self-assessment period is the 6th of April of 1 year till the 5th of April the following year. And then your deadline, again, is 9 months from that point, and it's the 31st of January of the following year. So the current year we've just finished is 6th of April 2020 until the 5th of April 2021. And our clients have got until the 31st of January of 2022 to pay their tax bill. So we're at the moment currently calculating everyone's self-assessments, and everyone's should be done by the end of June, but we've got quite a few hundred clients, so it takes a while. But by the end of June, every single client will have their self-assessment tax bill. So at least they know what they need to pay by the 31st of Jan next year. We'll submit it, and then within about 4 weeks, they'll receive that bill. But they can sit on that bill if they want. They can either pay it at that point or leave it right till the deadline if they want to just leave it in their account for longer. It's totally up to them, as long as it's paid by 31st of July. So just circling back, a sole trader has just one tax return to do, which is the self-assessment, running from the 6th of April to the 5th of April. But when you form a limited company, you've got now 2 tax returns to do. You've got your corporation, but you've still got your self-assessment. But because of the deductions done through the company, those 2 taxes together are thousands of pounds less than just a sole trader on its own. So a lot of people always think, well, if I have to do a self-assessment anyway, surely it costs me more if I do a self-assessment and a corporation. It's not the case. You do a self-assessment on £40,000, you pay about £7,000 in tax. You do a corporation tax return and a self-assessment, the tax bill is like £4,000. Reason for that is because you're not declaring all your 40,000 on the self-assessment. You're declaring your 40,000 on your corporation after expenses, and then your self-assessment will be a lot lower because it's only based on the income you receive from the company, which will be less than 9,000 to keep it tax efficient.
Cool. Next one, we're still getting more questions. Almost 6 o'clock now. Can you try the sole trader first and then switch over to limited company if you're not sure about locuming?
Yeah, absolutely. You can. We always say, some people that are on the fence, because some people get it right from the start. They understand we're talking thousands of pounds here in tax, and nobody wants to pay more tax than they need to. So most people get it straight away, and they're like, yeah, I've done pre-reg for a whole year. I know what the business is about. This is where I want to make my money. So then they'll just form the limited company from day one. The people that are on the fence about it, that not too sure, because a lot of people also think in 60 days, will we even have enough money to pay your fee? And we're like, if you've not got £5,000 in the account at that point, just don't pay us the fee yet. We'll add it by another 30 days. The last thing we want is you to have £600 in your account or £700 in your account, and we're invoicing you 659. So we always say, we make sure that our client's comfortable first before they pay the invoice. So if you have to add another 30 days, it's not a problem. So, but you can, if you want, you can start the sole trader first, so just start working as a sole trader. We'd say, 30 days should be long enough for you to know if you want to do it or not. And then at that point, form the limited company if you know you're going to do it full time, because trust me, at the end of the year, you won't be happy having to pay that amount of tax. We had a client maybe about 4 weeks ago. He came from another accountant. He did a whole year, and he did almost £60,000, and his accountant calculated his tax bill at £16,000, and he obviously wasn't happy with that tax bill. So then he came to us. We managed to get it down to just over £11,000, but still, I said to him, like, if you would have formed a limited company, that bill would have been literally £5,500. So you're paying an extra £5,000 in tax just because you didn't form the limited company at the start of the year.
Yeah, and I think I think I know who you're talking about. He was basically advised that it's not worth setting up a limited company unless you're
he's the one.
£50,000.
Yeah.
So he was at £55,000 and he got a 16.5 grand bill.
Yeah.
And it was,
and that's by a family account, like a family friend accountant.
Yeah, so literally the worst advice anyone could have given him. So he ended up with quite a high tax bill. And like I said, I've always said to everyone that if locuming isn't for everyone. But what I would say is, before you get an employed position, try locuming. It will give you an understanding of what different companies are like to work for. So before you choose a branch or a company to work for, you've gone there as a locum, you know what the environment's like, you know what the staff are like, you know what the area managers are like if it's a multiple, or you know what the employer's like if you're just working for an independent. I wouldn't recommend jumping straight into employment because you don't get that level of exposure that you would as a locum. And and this is the same advice I was given by a very senior manager at Lloyd's Pharmacy when I did my pre-reg. He said, look, I'd rather you go out there, you locum for a bit, learn what other companies are doing, then you come back to us and work as an employee, because then you can bring the best of what you've learned at other companies and help us develop the company even further. So don't think that because you're a locum that you're not going to have something good to add to your CV. You can add a lot to your CV by becoming a locum, because you can see everything that's done right and everything that's done wrong at different companies. But deciding whether to locum first or not, and then setting up a limited company or sole trader, I suppose you could just go with a limited company. It's not a huge amount of expense extra. I mean, even if you've got £5,000 there as a locum for a month or 2 months, you've still easily covered your cost, and then you can decide whether to work even just weekends. I'm currently employed part-time but want to do locum on the side. How would I sort out my taxes? Would I need to set up a business account?
That we would need to discuss, because it depends what they mean on the side. If they're only doing a few days, it wouldn't be worth forming a limited company and having a business account. They'd just be better off with a sole trader bank account. So it really depends. When you're working for another company, because you've got a payroll open with them, it's one of the ways in which we get the taxes down by almost £1,700. So if you've already got a payroll open with somebody else, we can't make that saving. So we need to be able to justify our fee. So we would need to look at how often they're looking to work to be able to calculate should they do sole trader or limited, and then from there decide which accounts are open.
Okay. I'll be locuming on the side of a different full-time locum job. Should I open a limited company? I think we've kind of covered that one.
Yeah. Happy to take phone calls and discuss it further, but more than likely, if you're working full-time, you've already got a payroll, then the savings wouldn't be as great. And plus you're limited, and if you're working 5 days a week, you're on 37.5 hours. Realistically, how many locum shifts are you going to get in a year? On average, what we see is people on the side earn about £10,000. It'd be fine just declaring that through a self-assessment. It wouldn't justify having a limited company for that.
Okay. If I have already done a couple of shifts as a sole trader, and then I now open a company, what would be the process in terms of self-assessment?
Self-assessment would still be the same. It still needs to be done, but it's just whatever shifts were done outside of the limited company would be declared on the self-assessment. So a limited company self-assessment is different to a sole trader's, because your self-assessment is you declaring how much money you've personally received in that 12-month period between the 6th of April of one year and the 5th of April another year. A sole trader receives all of the income. So let's just go by the hypothetical 40,000. If you've made 40,000 as a locum, on your self-assessment, you've received all of that 40,000. When somebody has a limited company and they receive the money on their self-assessment, they won't receive that 40,000 because the company received the 40,000 pounds. And we have a salary set at £732 a month for our locums. So the locum receives £732 a month as a salary, which is just under £9,000, which is just under the secondary national insurance threshold. So there's no tax or national insurance to pay on that amount. So on their self-assessment, all they're declaring is that under £9,000 that they receive, not the £40,000 that a sole trader would have received. So hence why the self-assessment, the tax bill is very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
Muted. Sorry, all the mic's muted.
Sorry, thanks. Yeah, so the question was, does Centra have a website? Yes, they do. What I'll do is I'll email everyone on Eventbrite the full details, the phone number, email address, and the website address, so you guys can get in touch with Imran yourself. So is it monthly or yearly?
What's monthly or yearly? The fee?
Yeah, I think it's a fee. I think it's a fee. Monthly or yearly? I think the Centra fee is yearly, isn't it?
Yeah, yearly.
Sorry, it's from Deborah. I don't know what you mean if it's monthly or yearly. If it is the fee, then yes, it's done yearly. So just to confirm, we would just pay ourselves a salary from the limited company.
Yeah, we would set up the payroll, and then at the end of each month, you just transfer the money from your business account to your personal account with the reference, whatever your company name is, and the word salary. Now, obviously, 732 is a very low figure. It's just a tax efficient figure. So whatever you, now obviously you're not going to be able to live off 732. Everything you need additional to that, you just do a separate bank transfer. So if you've calculated my monthly expenses are about £1,500, do your figure, send your 732 and then send the remainder, £750, and you reference it with the company name with the word dividends at the end of it. And dividends is taxed at 7.5%. So every £1,000 you take from the business, you're paying £75 tax, which is super efficient.
What expenses can you claim as limited company? I think pretty much anything to do. I'll let you go with that.
Yeah, everything that's literally to do with the limited company. Some things that you may not think of, but obviously your GPHC, your indemnity insurance, PDA, anything that you're paying, any kind of professional subscription you're paying, you can claim. You can claim your meal allowance. So if you set up your business bank account, this is another reason why it's good to form a limited company, because from your point of view, like our work increases from the accountant's point of view, but from the locum, it becomes easier because now you've got a business bank account. You no longer need to keep receipts because your business bank statement will act as your receipt. So everything that's solely to do with locum work should be claimed on the business bank account. So when you go for lunch, buy your meals on your business bank account. When you pay for fuel at the gas station, pay it on your business bank account. Your indemnity insurance, your GPHC membership. You can do up to £300 in uniforms. You might buy like a suit, business, some professional workloads. You can claim on the business bank account. And then things for your home office. So you might need a laptop, a tablet. You might decide to buy your mobile phone outright. It could work out cheap for you. You can buy all of that on the business.
Coffee maker as well, if you need.
Coffee maker for the home office. You've got your toaster, kettle, a set of like a plate, fork, spoon, a desk, a microwave, and then things like a vacuum cleaner people are surprised about. So you could get a vacuum cleaner, £300, £400, whatever the cost is. You can claim that through the business because even though your house or wherever you work in your room is maybe only about 10% of your overall home, it can't have a separate vacuum cleaner to clean it. It still has to be the one that's cleaning everywhere. So yeah, you'll get a benefit of it in the rest of the house, but it still is used to clean where you work as well. So things like that can be claimed. So it's quite long. We do have a list that we email to our clients. You literally can't put everything on there because people could think of things that you could claim, like literally the list would be forever. But anything type of stationery, plastic wallets, folders, binders, your printer, toner, printer paper, all of that can be claimed.
Could we just use our personal account with Lloyd's, etc., and limited company for everyone else, or is that illegal? I think we've covered that question before.
Yeah, but just not your personal account. It would just have to be a separate account. You can't have untaxed money go straight in with taxed money, you know. So that money is still untaxed. If you're working for Lloyd's or Asda, the tax is still in there and they want you to deal with it. They just want you to deal with it on a sole trader basis. So it just has to go into a separate sole trader bank account.
Okay. And again, I think we've covered that in detail earlier as well. So for a limited company, if I don't want to use my home address, are you able to use a virtual office instead?
You can use. So there are registered office addresses that you can use. The clients that sign up with us that don't want to use that address, we allow them to use one of our addresses as well, which we don't charge for. But if you do decide to use a registered office address, you are able to do that. But you just have to be aware they'll only forward on letters that are from Hmrc. So you might receive other letters that could be from companies' house that they might not necessarily forward on to you without an additional fee. Sometimes it can get quite expensive.
Okay. For a company, I don't want to use. So what if while locuming, we find a permanent job? How does it work in closing the company?
It's quite easy. So you just have to finish off that year. So if you don't end up doing any more shifts, we'll end your expense sheet there. When the year ends, we'll calculate the taxes due for the amount that you've already done. Once the fee's been paid, once the tax has been paid, we can then close down the company. But it takes about 3 months to close.
Okay, cool. And do you need a limited company if you work part-time or for a company and want to locum on days off? Again, I think we've covered that, didn't we?
Yeah, but they're saying they're working part-time for a company, so potentially for them, it may still be worthwhile to have a limited company. It all depends on how many days they have available to work. Mm-hmm. We have, for example, we've got clients who are working for the NHS. So they are employed, but they're only employed for 3 days. So they are able to work 4 days. So for them, after calculating it, it still works out. They'll save at least 3,000 minimum if they went the limited company route. So for them, it is worth it.
Okay. And do I need to use my business bank account to purchase everything regarding work, for meals, fuel receipts, equipment, etc.?
Yeah, it's just better for the client if they do that, because that way, everything related to the local business is in one place on one bank statement. So then at the end of the month, when they're transferring the figures onto the expense sheet, we're only having to look through that one bank statement. Whereas if it's in your personal bank account, you could have so many personal transactions and you literally have to sift through that to see which one is a locum related expense. And you could accidentally miss it. And if you don't put it on the expense sheet, you wouldn't know about it. And then you wouldn't be able to get the benefits of reducing your tax as an expense for that one. So best if it's all on the business bank statement, you literally just go through item by item and just transfer the figure over.
Okay. If as an employee of your own limited company, you put yourself as earning £9,000, how would you then use the rest of the funds in the account for general things?
Mm-hmm. So the £9,000 is just your salary. So that's the money that's gone into your personal account. Mm-hmm. So you're not, that's just to cover any of your personal expenses. And if you require anything over that amount, you can transfer it to your personal account via the reference as dividends, which you would then pay 7.5% tax on. But anything business locum related would still come directly from the business account, from the money the business has made. So if the business has made £20,000 by that point or £30,000, all the expenses can come from that. The only point where you struggle is from day one, because from day one, the business account's got nothing in there. So you might have to pay for your first lunch meal, but once you get money into the account, from then onwards, the company would cover all the costs.
Okay. For example, 4 days company employed and locum shifts once a week every 2 weeks. I think Nuha, can you just clarify the whole question? It's coming in bits from different.
Yeah, but that one does sound like it should be a sole trader. If they're working for a company for 4 days, they're working for a company as an employee, and then they only locum once a week every 2 weeks. They're not really working much in a year. they're better off just declaring it for yourself. I don't think we could justify the extra £360.
Okay. Do I get to claim GPHC PDA fees as full-time employed and locum on the side without a limited company on self-assessment? So, okay, so they're employed full-time and they're locuming on the side as sole trader, and they still want to claim the GPHC and PDA fees through the sole trader.
They can, as long as the pharmacy hasn't covered them, whereas some pharmacies will cover those fees. So as long as they've not been reimbursed for them fees, they can claim for them on a self-assessment, because that is one of the few valid expenses on a self-assessment, which is your professional fees. Without it, you wouldn't be able to actually apply your trade.
Okay. Can sole traders able to claim the same type of expenses with companies? No. Again,
No.
I'm going into full detail.
Hence why there's thousands of pounds difference in tax with the tax bill.
If it's not worth making a limited company account because we're locuming 2 days, 1 or 2 days, would it be better making a sole trader account to keep with personal account? If doing self-assessment, can the accountant fill that out if there is no limited company account?
Not too sure what that question means. But yeah, if you've not got a limited company and you're just a sole trader, you would make a sole trader bank account so that you can still, because you're still going to have a lot. You couldn't just do a standard current account. It still needs to be a business account, but without a limited company attached to it. So you can have high volume of transactions going in and out without the bank freezing the account. It's muted again.
Yeah. So if it's not worth making a limited company account only because working 1 or 2 days, would it be better making a sole trader account to keep a personal account? So you're keeping the sole trader account with the personal account, I think, if that's what. Hanin, could you clarify that question, because it's not very clear. If doing self-assessment, can the accountant fill out that? So obviously, you guys.
Yeah, we would still do the self-assessment.
Yeah, if there's no limited company account. Yeah, so even if you're sole trader, the accountants will sort out all of those paperworks for you. I think it's basically, even with mine, so all I did was do at the end of the year, sign a few of the forms and send it back to the accountant. So even whether you limited company or sole trader, the accountants, this is why you're paying them. They do all your paperwork. All you do is at the end of the year, you just agree that what they've done for you is right, and you're happy with what they've claimed for, and then you just sign and send off, because ultimately it is your responsibility. Even if the accountant went through all the paperwork, you do still have the responsibility of ensuring that you are happy with what's being submitted. And that's the last of our questions. If there's any other questions that you have, and it's gone 6:15 now, 7:15, sorry, then you could always email it. You can always email it to Imran directly.
Or WhatsApp it to me.
Or WhatsApp.
Once you put the number on there, because most locums like to just WhatsApp whenever they've got a question. So feel free to WhatsApp or arrange a phone call via WhatsApp, and we can speak on the phone. So somebody just asked if will Hmrc remind them of a self-assessment. They will send a reminder letter, but also if you do sign up to an accountancy, it is our job as well to remind you what's due and when it's due.
Yeah, so I think that should hopefully answer all the questions. Can you send the number, please, where to ask the questions? Yes, we will. I'll email it to everyone tonight on Eventbrite. And if you still haven't received it, just message me on Telegram or WhatsApp, and I'll send you Imran's number so you can contact him directly as well. So thanks, Imran. Thanks for coming up. I think that's a lot of questions that we went through today. And hopefully that's clarified a lot of the issues that locums have had so far. And we will, just let us afterwards if there is anything else that you have to, if you want to do any more events. And we've got we're planning another one around investment in 2 to 3 weeks' time with Gorilla. So that's coming up as well. So obviously now that you know how to do your accounting, you've got your money saved, how do you invest that money? And that's what we'll be discussing with Gorilla and one of their investment partners. And that's again coming possibly 2 weeks' time. Or 3 weeks, we haven't finalized the date yet on that one. Imran, anything else you want to add to it, or shall we make?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything there. Just that question, isn't it, right from the start? Are you going to go the sole trader route or the limited route? Once you figured that out, you'd know which type of bank account you're going to open. And then after that, you begin to start working.
Yeah.
So it's just that decision at the start.
Yeah. So, and I think if you have we did kind of cover a lot of the questions in our last week's webinar as well. So if you can have a look at that on our website. But again, thanks for everyone, and apologies again for the delay. I know we were supposed to start at 4 o'clock. So thanks again for coming to the webinar today, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.